tossing around the wild ideas, and having a good laugh along the way. Pull up a chair, grab you a drink, and join us as we talk about whatever comes to mind and have a blast doing it. Don't forget to look in the description for a 10% off code with W, whether you need to be hydrated or given a boost of energy. W has the answer. Tonight, we have Chad, which is the singer for Echoes of Thunder. Is a rising force in independent rock, a storm of electrifying riffs, thunderous beats, and raw emotion. Recently featured by Music Crowns and Broken 8 Records. We create music that inspires fighters and dreamers to rise again, turn it up, and let the storm begin. Welcome, Chad.
Thank you so much for having me on here. It is an honor to be talking with you, and I hope I can bring some good stories and some good laughs.
Yeah, man, it's going to be an interesting night because, you know, I believe you were a meteorologist as well. Not only a meteorologist, a school teacher at that.
I've got a interesting background. I am not your typical musician. I put on many hats, as they would say. So yeah, currently I am a high school math teacher. Gotta pay the bills. I'm not famous yet when it comes to the music trend. So before I got into teaching, I was a broadcast meteorologist, aka a TV weatherman, and I did that for about 7.5 years. I started out in Abilene, Texas, out in West Central Texas, and then I went over to Little Rock, where I had a little bit of a fling there for about 2 or 3 years, and then went into high school teaching. And I've always had a music background kind of brewing in me. And I know many people ask, with that diverse background, first of all, why did you get out of television if you were so into that field? And I went to one of the best schools for it in the University of Oklahoma. And the reason was flat out that the cell phone, the invention of the cell phone really changed the market, and we started losing viewerships. There was also just, I never got to see my family. I didn't get paid that much. A lot of people don't know behind the scenes. You have to make your own graphics. We're talking being at the studio sometimes 6, 7, 8 hours in the same suit. It feels like wearing the same kind of three uniforms, being like Clark Kent, so to speak. Can't change my facial complexion. I didn't have a beard, so I looked like I was like 12 with my dad's suit on. And so I just knew deep down inside that God wanted something different for me. And I know in life there are really two ways you can impact people without them being related to you. And of course, one of them has to be a teacher, and I checked that box. I've been doing it now for over 10 years. It could be my 11th year teaching. And then going into music. That was my other passion that I always wanted to pursue, but always put it in the back burner. I just didn't really feel like it was that calling for me. And then something dramatic happened. Right around 2022, I know, I was laying in bed because I had bulged discs in my back, and this was the second time they had slipped out. And there was talk that my back was like a 65-year-old. So that was a really humbling experience when you have a doctor look at your MRI and going, so your age is 65 based on this. So that's that first bottom drop. And I know for any young artist, that's one of the worst things you ever want to have happen, right? You never want to hear, hey, you're going to be possibly having to deal with a cane or being in a wheelchair for almost the rest of your life and be bedridden if you don't start making life changes. I was in chronic pain, dealing with depression, and I was laying in my bed. I can never forget this. It was almost 3 years to this time when I was laying in bed. Could never find any place to get comfortable. People who are dealing with chronic pain or depression know that there's never good night's sleep. There's never that moment where you're just, I want to get relief. And suddenly it hit me. I think just God put it in me to say, hey, why don't you pursue writing music? You always try to play around with it when you were a teenager. You put it to the back burner so many years. Why not give it a shot? And at that point, if you're in so much pain, you will try almost literally everything, in terms of physical therapy, in terms of taking prescription drugs. You're trying to do anything to alleviate it, and this was the outlet that started to alleviate the pain. And I started making this music with the help of AI. I don't want to rely on it, but it's the truth. I didn't have a drummer. I didn't have a bassist. I didn't have anybody down the street. Hey, you want to pull some instruments up and you want to play this kind of music? So I played around with the sound. I had the lyrics. I had the idea. I had the beats going, and I made a few songs. I don't know if I'm ever going to release them. I think many artists will say the same thing. They're like, "This is terrible." You hear that from so many people, but I was dead set of like hitting delete. I do have a couple of them, but I think I'm only going to keep them to myself unless like dead Heart fans are like, I want to hear this, how bad it was. I could reveal that, but I'm gonna refrain from that right now. And so I was there and I put up some of the music and I thought they were good. I thought they were pretty good, and I'd work out to these. I think I made like 3 songs. I was really passionate. I've got these 3 songs already made. I'm gonna make them. And I worked out to some of them, and I mixed it in with, of course, my lovely influence here, AC/DC, and Airborne, and others. And I thought it was something. I thought I could really, be onto something. And of course, we all know, in beginners, for all those who are starting out in indie world, you're gonna second guess yourself. I want to say hundreds of thousands of times, not millions, but I'm not kidding you. Almost every day, perpetually, I'm still kind of thinking, should I put that out there? Should I tweak this? Is this good enough? And you always know you're your own harsh critic, and you're kind of analyzing. And so finally, after I made about another 2 songs, I'm like, ooh, I got 5 songs that I think are kind of good, but I didn't want to put it out there. I was too scared. It was, I think, late 2022. I started to finally heal. Thanks to those who work in physical therapy. Shout out to all those out there. They are amazing. They got me back on my feet and making me feel that I could actually walk and do normal activities and actually legit work out again. And with that music, that kept me going. And it was right around December, I want to say around December 2022, I sent my first couple songs. I was like, okay, I'm going to do the one little thing and rip the Band-Aid off. I wasn't going to put it on SoundCloud. It is very scary. So I think a lot of people do this internally. Okay, I'm going to send it to my closest friends and my family, and I'm going to see what their reaction is. I didn't get much response back, but my stepdad and my sister, the biggest fan, came up and goes, this is pretty good. I actually am singing along to one of these songs. You have something. You might want to continue on doing this and be a songwriter and actually pursue this more time instead of just doing it, I guess, at nights, because right when I was getting better, school was starting. So I couldn't work on it throughout the day, couldn't modify what I wanted to on my DAWs, couldn't do everything that I wanted to. So I'd have to reserve it at night. Shout out to all those people who are night owls. I am not a night owl. I have become one. I'm a hybrid now. I've now transferred more from being a morning person to a night person because that's when I can get my work done. So that is where I got into more and more of the idea of this is something. And I kept on writing. I don't think I stopped for, I think, 3-4. I mean, I wrote songs. It could be probably the worst lyrical song. My strong suit, of course, is always trying to develop a hook and a chorus. And I went there to a lot of songs. And eventually, before I knew it, I was in 1 year ago, I was in May. I realized I had over 24 songs. And again, I sent them off to my family, personal friends, and they said, okay, this is really good. You need to now think about putting it out there, like in the internet, like the interwebs. I sound so old when I say that, right? The series of tubes.
The interweb.
The interwebs. I sound like a grandpa. I'm not that old, folks.
You know what that reminds me of is the Interns. You ever watch that show?
Oh.
Let's put it on the web, on the line. Let's put it on the line. No, but continue on, man.
No.
I hate to interrupt you.
Oh, no, but I didn't want to age myself, and the people in the chat are just be like, what's he talking? How old is this guy? I got a few grays in here. It's no worries. I bring that experience, by the way. Experience does help you, by the way. In this
Yeah, I don't want to talk about age.
Yeah, we're both doing this at the same time. By the way, gnarly beard. I love that gnarly beard right there. All right, so yes, the files are in my computer. If you guys are wondering, the files are on my computer. I don't know if they will see the light of day. You would have to be the best of the best fans. You would have to. I would have to reach a certain point where I am becoming bigger on a larger stage, where I would feel comfortable releasing how bad these songs were, and I'd have to revoice them because I know lyrically they're really a mess. But I'd have to voice over a lot of stuff. But yes, I do have them, and I'm doing it for more of a mementos.
Never get rid of 'em, man.
No,
Because-
You're right. You're right. But I'm going to be honest with y'all and everyone out there who's watching this. I'm not gonna lie. About once a week, I do think about deleting that DEL button. Just hit that delete. Just what's the harm? No one's gonna hear it. No one's gonna hear it. But like I said, it's a memento to look back. If this progress, if this becomes something where Echoes of Thunder is something where people are really putting it into the indie vibe, and I'm getting signed. Yeah, I'm gonna sit there and go, okay, let's go back to this catalog. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. I'm gonna put it out there and be very bold and upfront, because that's the way I teach too. I am not the person that hides. When you asked to bring me onto this podcast, and you were saying we want everything out there for you to tell, I believe in that wholeheartedly. I believe nothing should be left behind the curtain. Tell the folks what is really going on, and that's what it was. So 1 year ago, I get the confirmation you should really start saying this out. So then comes the interesting note, what do I do from here? I'm going to put it out there. I got to think of a name. Am I going to use my name? As people are looking at me at the chat and they look at my last name, it's hard to pronounce for some people. And so I go, obviously, Chad Garno, but it just didn't ring. And I know the vibe I wanted to go for was 80s, hard rock, in your face, uplifting, empowerment rock music. And I just know that I didn't want to attribute that to a name. So I came up with something that suits more of my broadcast meteorology degree, and also just the fact that, it has a very 80s rock and roll vibe band name, and thunder is what resonates with people rather than the lightning and storms. I didn't want to refer to anything in terms of like rain or any kind of pitter patter or be kind of a downer kind of idea. Echoes of Thunder sounds like it's going to resonate and it's going to continue to be with you for a long time. And that's what my intention is with my music. And so I thought of the band name, and then came the branding. Okay, well, we got to make a logo that looks like old school of rock, right? We got to know that the logo has to match your theme of what you're going for. And that, I got a lot of inspiration from that movie. I think it was Old School of Rock. And I think I'm going to be honest, brutally honest, a little bit influenced by Mortal Kombat's Fatality, that font. If you look at my logo, you'll be like, I can see where he's talking about that. And I wanted a little jaggedness to represent, obviously, lightning coming down associated with thunder, which is the sound produced with the light coming down and heating up 10 times the sun, by the way. And then just what you hear and that resonates with you. So yeah, and so I thought of that branding. Okay, this is the kind of vibe I'm going to go for. This is the kind of sound. And then I thought about branding, website, hashtags. I even thought about a new genre, because in this world, this, and I think a lot of the listeners know, we've reached a non-genre era. And what I mean by that is we can go out, anybody, and find the music they want to hear. So there's nothing you have to be forced to hear either on a radio or a billboard. It's completely different than when we were young, right? I mean, we would do TRL, whatever you heard on the radar. I've got rain on the brain. I got that meteorology brain on my head right there. And knowing that I can sit there and I turn on the radio, right? And we know we would be subject to that. I mean, I know, old school. I had the cassette tapes and I had to hit record and play. I don't miss those days, to be honest with you. I love that kind of sound, the old record kind of sound. But yeah, and I wanted to sit there and say, okay, I wanted something a part of that era, but we've reached a point now where you can pick what you want. You want to hear a kind of rap song about any subject, you can get it. To me, there was no hard rock songs besides Skillet, shout out to them, and Thousand Foot Crutch that wasn't uplifting. Oh yeah, Thousand Foot Crush, amazing. I play that with my son. Yes, I have children. I know, aging myself, and I love their style, but they're gone, right? They've kind of they're out of the mix, and Skillet's also getting advanced in age, and I'm like I want to carve out something where I've never heard an Airborne be uplifting and be one that doesn't, you know, sit there and say, you know, screw this or use profanity or having to sit there and be so harsh, right? Because rock has that tone, and that's fine. That works for a lot of people. It even works for me. I mean, I still listen to AC/DC, still listen to Airborne, still listen to all these bands, but I wanted to carve out something different, and the way I knew I could do that was creating the genre of, okay, my music is going to help you work out with that mindset always being by your side to do that through, you know, hellfire, through whatever you're going through. If I can get me through the pain that I was going through, I can hope that this music can help somebody else in that same spot. And that's where it came from. And after that, it was okay. We're gonna do this in March. I'm gonna put out, you know, stuff on SoundCloud. I'm gonna play around with, you know, YouTube and Shorts, and they're pretty popular right now. And and then I put out some demos out in May that I was working on simultaneously around 2024, 25, and what I'm thinking about putting out in a future album next year. And I'm now, I think we talked about this beforehand about being consistent and having yourself always being ready for the next song, the next moment that it does hit you, right? And I've got a couple songs that have just hit me that I'm trying to get into the recording process and moving completely away from AI to the point where I can try to pull information as I best can from the beats that I hear, put them with the live instruments, and then put my voice to it to the point where people are like, wow, this is something that is memorable, and it actually is something different in this rock genre than just what you typically hear out in the, I guess, Spotify world, I guess. Is that the most common? Spotify with the youth, SoundCloud, you know, I'm not expecting anything.
Pandora.
Yeah, Pandora, thank you.
See, that's where disease heard of you was Pandora, and I come across you. Actually, I come across you on Instagram, and I watched your video. I seen the song and stuff, and I was like, I'm gonna reach out to this guy. You know, I mean, like I told you before we started, man, I enjoy talking to new artists. Um, there's nothing better than someone that's coming up from nothing. You know, I'm not saying necessarily nothing, but say you coming up and you you're not in that money mix. You know what I'm saying right now. And when people do make it to the money mix, they'll be so busy. You know, hopefully we'll have time to have another podcast when you get to that point. But I understand everybody is busy at that point. You know, so I enjoy talking to the up and coming artists. You know, like yourself.
Yeah, I will tell you that is going to be a promise for you guys. I can tell you right now, if I even make it to a few gigs, if I get any kind of album deal, I'll come on and still talk to you guys. You always have to pay respect for the people that got you where you are. I believe in that philosophy. So if that does happen, absolutely. You have to be humble in where you came from. And you're right. That's what makes me different with my experiences. I'm not chasing the money. I'm not chasing the clicks. I'm chasing connections. I want people to feel the music and feel like they can get through whatever storm they have in their life. And that's one of my popular songs is Into the Storm. It's embracing what you're about to head into. And you just know that there are other people that are along for the ride. Because a lot of times we try to isolate ourselves. We try to sit there and put the specific type of music or a virtual chat. I would love in the future, of course, to meet you guys in person because there's nothing more than a human connection in getting you there. And if I can't be there in person, hopefully I can do it through my music.
And you're not that far from us, man. I promise you. When you throw a gig, you let me know, and I'll be there.
All right. Well, that sounds great. And again, it goes both ways. And artists need to sit there and pay respect to those as they go on up. And I believe in that wholeheartedly. Yeah, it's one of those things where I feel like I'm playing with house money, as they say, because I've done the opposite. I've come from a humble background where I've had to work through my life. I got married, I have children, and I think that's just it really brings you down to earth. And with the experiences of what goes through having no sleep, having those tough conversations, building on relationships, and not sitting there and falling into the same trope of, well, I'm gonna be just an artist. I am gonna be just this. I'm like, I tell this to a lot of my students. What if that doesn't work? Who are you now? You're not just an artist. You're a human being. You have other things out there. And if that's your only thing, if that's what defines you, great. But just know there are other things to you than just being an artist. I know there are diehards out there. They're like, that's all I live for. Okay. But I always tell everyone, always have something to define yourself other than just what you are good at. Because right now, I'm on my third thing in a pathway in life. I was TV meteorology guy. I still am, teacher guy. And now I'm going into what the third thing, which is a musician. And it's still blowing my mind on that. You don't have to be defined by one pathway. You've got many in front of you. You're not defined by one click. You're not defined by one song. You have many, many more experiences to go through in your life. I know I do, and you do. And I'm just excited for the ride to come. And that's how I think it should be.
Well, I mean, you've mentioned Into the Storm a few times right now. Would you like to play that song for the audience?
I don't. Go ahead
I'll
and
bring
play
it
it.
up, man.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
All right. Yeah. Disease, you'll have to let me know if this is too loud on or not loud enough. Everybody can hear it, right? Too much?
It is.
Can't slow down, nothing in my way. Full bottle, got no time to stay. Crash through walls until they break. Burning rubber, leaving fire in my wake.
Had that imagery in my head,
Eyes on the road, heart in my chest.
trying to drive away from my problems.
Push ahead, don't need the rest. Screaming wind, tearing on my skin.
Bring down the window.
Zero red, let the race begin. Into the storm, heart beating fast and loud.
I like the transition right there. I like the transition.
Into the storm.
That was the transition I had in my head too. That was the transition of not running away from the storm, going into it.
Into the storm. Lightning breaks out in the sky. You know what is right. Thinking takes you places unknown. Drive those out as the winds blow into the storm. Heart beating fast and loud. Got no time for backing down. Into the storm. Hold tight as the winds blow now. Don't think for far too long. Just head into.
Yeah, that transition really hits me. I knew when I had that hook, I was like, all right, that's the song right there.
Keep your head down.
Bracing for when it gets the worst.
Hold tight as the winds blow now. Into the storm.
Final chorus here, of course. Gotta end with it.
Stay loud. Got no time for backing down. Into the storm. Hold tight as the winds blow.
Comment on Facebook, sounds fire.
Don't think before you fall. Just
Well, thank you very much.
head into the storm. Yeah!
Gotta have those guitar riffs. Gotta get those heads bobbing. Oh, oh, my baby, I love that. All my songs,
Yeah.
of course. It's like hard to pick your favorite, but that was.
I noticed.
remember- yeah, that song. Well, many artists will do that, right? On your
Oh,
show,
yeah.
they'll. I mean, if it hits, then it's gonna be put out there. Like you know, as an artist, when you're feeling it, you've got the chorus, the lyrics started coming. That's always the hardest part for me as a musician. Is once I've got the chorus, once I've got the hook, once I've got the guitar riffs, the drums are a little bit easier in terms of AI helping me out with that one, fillers on that. But it's lyrically trying to get some of those verses to match the theme that I'm going for. And like I said, it was in my mindset of feeling like I was driving away and I wanted to just go away from my problems. And I said, you know what? Turn it and go into it, embrace it. And I went, that's a song right there. And it defines kind of the character that I want to kind of put out there. And that was the first song in the first album I put out there, was that song. And that was the one that my sister said, you need to build on that. That's the one you really need to hit on that one a little bit more and make it public. So, and of course, I did.
Heck yeah, man. That was the song that I come across, and I was like, listen to that thing. I looked it up on Spotify, like right away, because it was on, Instagram only gives you a portion.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so
But
I'm like, I got a taste of it. I was like, hold on.
that's part of the business, baby, right? If all these artists out there, just a little bit of experience, give them a teaser. That's why we have teasers in movies, y'all. This is what you do on Instagram. They teach you that with TikTok, right? Put the 30 seconds. There's a reason why they want you to kind of promote those, is to put those little feelers out there, so that way you get a bite, and then I try to pull you in with Spotify, SoundCloud, website, and hopefully there's other songs that you go, this one just as much fire as this other one. Now I need to start following this band. I gotta hear the story. And then I put them to this podcast, and then they're like, oh, now I get really behind the scenes. Because I'm gonna age myself. I used to love pop-up video. Do you remember pop-up video on VH1?
VH1, yeah.
Oh, that was.
Man, now
Oh.
you're telling some age. VH1, MTV.
Look, I was really young. I just like the pop sound.
Yeah.
Okay, for all those who don't know. So VH1 was a music channel like MTV, and all they did was play music videos. But they had some interesting shows like MTV, and I think one of their biggest ideas was they would play a song, and then they tell you so much more kind of like snippets about it as the song was playing. And it's sort of like IMDb with songs, and you got to see it with the music video. And to me, I just like the sound. You would always hear a little popping noise that would come up. And that's where I feel like with podcasts and telling your stories, you can really dive into each song. Any song you throw at me, I go, I got a story to this. And Into the Storm was one of the bedridden songs. And like I said, I walk you through that step in that thought process of turning away from everything in your problems, just wanting to run away. And I'm like, that's what any rock artist would say. It's like, embrace it, or, ignore the pain, or here comes the pain, and let's just, get through it. And I'm like, no, embrace it. It's going to be part of your life. You can't ignore pain, and you got to learn to somehow deal with it. And that was my own internal struggle that I had when I was bedridden, 3 years ago. And that just came out in the song. And that's where all good songs come from. If you hear that, usually, besides, your pop songs that are very good and catchy for a reason, there's a science to it. I should know as a teacher. But most deep core songs that resonate with people are those that have the backstory to them and have obviously a nice guitar hook to it as well. That doesn't hurt. But if that's what I think will make the impression, so that's it doesn't shock me because I had the same revelation when I was making this song. I'm like, this is gonna be I think this is gonna be one of my big songs that's gonna really help put me a little bit out there and help promote. Besides the other ones that I'm making, I went, this is the one you're gonna want to premiere in the beginning.
You've done an excellent job putting it together, man.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
I've also heard a lot of your other songs because, you know, what I like to do is like when I can have somebody come on the show, on my way to work every day, I will run your albums, like each one of your albums. I'm listening to it because I want to listen to every song I can, you know, and you know, that way I have something to talk about. Not only that, it's, you know, you get a new fan, you know.
Oh yeah, well yeah, I don't mind any fans for that matter. I don't have any problem with that. Of course, any indie artist would say that, but I would say I appreciate you and coming to talk with me and not just sit there and go, well, here's this guy, you know, somebody heard one of my producers, or I stumbled upon a nice Instagram. He's got one or two good songs. I appreciate that because you're not just looking into it in terms of an interview and going, well, I listened to a couple of your songs. You sound good, you know, just like any of the other people. No, I actually listened to all of your albums. I appreciate you and going, there's something to this person. I'm not going to just base it on, you know, one little clip, but it just grabs your attention. And that's what we're trying to do out in this world where, like I said, there's so much eclectic mix out there where you can pick and choose what you desire and what you want to listen to during that day. I'm just hoping I'm part of the spin when you're out working out, or when you're, you know, washing the car, or, you know, when you're mowing the lawn, you know, the day-to-day stuff that you don't think about. You're like, what am I going to pop on? Oh, Echoes of Thunder. So, and if y'all are wondering, yes, I do listen to my own songs exclusively when I work out and stuff, all of that. I don't
think a good thing, man.
Oh yeah, well that's where I go. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I made this for the right reasons, because originally it was for my own workouts. It was for my own struggles. And if I didn't like to listen to it, then what am I doing? Like I said, what am I putting it out there for if I don't even like it myself? So yeah, it's one of those, you can put it on, and that's where it hit me too, when I was sitting there with my kids and they're, you know, humming the songs and saying the lyrics back to me. Mm-hmm. That's the same kind of vibe. I know indie artists, with your first couple of gigs, when you see that first fan up front, kind of lipping it back to you, yep, and they're just as much into it as you are, that's cloud nine.
You've done something right.
You're correct. And I've already won in life. And that's just an icing on the cake that I just hope that it just helps people through their day. And I know for me, it's just my kids are singing it because it's exposure, obviously. But I don't just play my music. They have other stuff that they listen to. But that's the one that they'll say, hey, put it on that song while we're driving with Dad. I'm like, okay, I've made it. That's going to stick with you guys for a while.
That's awesome, man. Give you them warm, fuzzy feelings, you know, especially when your kids, you know, your kids are listening to it. So.
There's no other feeling. It's like, again, the euphoria that you have when you're hearing this music and you're working out and you're like, man, I just want to get another rep in because I just want to. And sometimes my favorite is when you sit there, and you can attest to this, you hear that song, I'm going to leave that on repeat. Repeat was that little dial, you know, on your phone, you're like, repeat 1, which is, I'm not hearing any other songs. It is just this song straight up. I've done that on a couple of mine, and it's not like it was an accident or what have you. It's a matter of, hey, you know, this is really getting me through whatever I'm feeling. And it's funny because if you listen to my music, it does have a lot of Storm themes. It should. It's the branding, right? Yeah. But I do have, you know, a song where, you know, there's relationship stuff where I don't know what I'm going to get. Sometimes you're hot, sometimes you're cold, and, you know, mixed signals. And I'm also got a one that was on Hurricane Beryl, and that impacted my life last year, and I had to write a song about it. And that just got released on Spotify called Storm Unleashed. And that one made an impact on me whatsoever. So it's not always the same kind of theme. And you notice that as I'm writing more and more songs. It's kind of crazy now that I think I've written now more than 50 songs, in that I'm trying to do the classic, what they say is artists, okay, I don't want to do the same kind of vibe. I want to kind of branch out. And so I'm not getting away from the Storm themes. I'm not getting away from my main branding, but I am venturing out into rock rap and Thousand Foot Crutch being more of an influence. And I'm making little feelers on that. I put that on Instagram not too long ago with going with a song where I don't know, I'm just sitting there going, you know what, I'm going to roll with this and see where it takes me. And it could be just a little extra song I put out there as a single, because in this day and age, you don't have to produce albums. I know we live in an age where a single can get you by, right? A single click, a single view can go viral. But in my day and age, I feel like you should have an album, you should have a story to tell. And that's where some of my songs, you know, like This Ain't the End was a song I made that I just put out in the demo in May. It's probably gonna be my last song in next year's album. And it's this idea of like, I don't make it like the end, but it's a play on the word of this isn't the end for you. It's just the beginning, and it's just the start, and it's a metaphor for what I'm doing with my music. So I'm trying to play around with my sound. I'm trying to not completely veer off the brand, but in a sense, trying to make music that stands out, that can be unique, and that not every single song plays the same. Because in albums, some of them would play almost the exact same. You get one or two, what are they called, ballads, right? You'd have one or two ballads. I try to stay away from those for now. I don't know if I'll change in a couple of years. You know, you can always go different vibes and, you know, the way that people react and, you know, depending on how things go. But that's where I feel like you got to have a couple unique ones, ones that kind of stand out. And I'm just branching out as I continue to write and prepare for possibly an album for next year, because right now I have about a 20 song catalog, and I only, I think, released about 5 of them as demos right now, because I'm gonna still do a lot with them. But there's a lot of songs I wanna kind of whittle down, and of course I'll put out some stuff from here and there, and when I feel like it's polished and ready, I'll put it sometime in 2026.
So when you get to where you want to be at, you got to take that one of those songs that you are trying to delete, and you have to let it go, let it out there.
You won't let me go with that one. I know you said, I can hear the producer. The producer's like, you got to keep on going for it. You got to let Chad know.
No. I mean, look, man. Like we talked about before the show started, is every artist has that list of, I ain't playing that. But you never, like, say, the one time, like, when you get to where you want to be at, and even maybe before that, you have these people that know your music, love your music, and you want to put that, say you put that one out that you thought wasn't great, and this thing takes off, man, like even further than where you're sitting at. You never know.
You're right, and I'm always, despite my age and despite my experience, I should put that right, is I'm not, I'll listen 100%. I think you're right. Yes, I will probably put something out there when the timing is more obviously right.
Yeah.
I'm more focused on the polish work for the 2026 album. But the notion of, well, you have it in that hard drive, I'm not going to probably release that exact version because it's so, it's so rough. Like you can hear the crackling. It's bad. And of course the holdback is, besides the fact that I think it's not that great, that's not the only reason why, and it's pretty muddied. It needs to be cleaned up a lot. It has a lot to do with the fact that it's just, to me, it's not what I had originally, like I did as my brand. Like it doesn't sound as much like Echoes of Thunder, or it sounds too lyrically not that great. But like you said, once you come to a certain spot where you are comfortable, and I'm getting close to there, it's not a bad idea. Maybe I do it as a small, I mean, I love doing this with my fans on SoundCloud, is if you follow me, I give you songs in advance. If you follow me on my website, I give you a song that I'm working on. Right now I'm working on Reboot Me, and I don't know if that's going to be on the album. I might release something with it on Instagram this week. So it's just one of those where I'm not saying any kind of songs I make right now. Yeah, I'm probably going to put it out there just to see. Like you said, it's never a bad idea. But one of the first couple ones that I worked out to, I It's gonna. I probably have to lyrically. I might change a few things. I'm not gonna change the chorus. I'm not gonna change that. But I will have to say when it's not as rough, I'm pretty sure I can put it out there once the polished album is out.
Well, I know that I know you're going to do a remix. I know you are. But you know,
I'm already remixing right now. That's the funny thing about artists. We never stop working now at nighttime and stuff. And I'm always working on stuff. And I'm remixing some of those older songs, and they could be on the album, y'all. But it's the understanding of they're so they're so raw. Like a 13-year-old could have written it. And to be fair, some of these songs were my first ones. They're my first babies, and they're really near and dear to me. But again, if it's what the people want to hear, if people are liking what they hear from me, then I'm an open book. I'm never going to sit there and completely close the book and not reveal any of these songs that I'm working on right now into the future. They'll always get released because, like you said, it could catch something. But to be honest, really the whole goal of this is any of those songs, if they touch you and they make you feel empowered and feel stronger and feel better, then who's it to me, because I'm not signed, I'm not a big artist, where I have to worry about copyright, whatever, and putting yourself out there to the point where a studio, they wrote it and they wrote the lyrics and there's ghostwriters and what have you, that it was a song that was really not you that produced it. And to me, I'm an open book. I'm trying to get that out there as polished as I can, hoping that if it helps you get through whatever mess you have in life, then I've accomplished it. Like I said, it's all playing with house money. It's all icing to the cake. I'm just trying to help you along for the journey that is this tough world, because man, it's dark and grim, and I've heard so much of that, and I need something to get me going where it's not always doom and gloom. We have those time and place. I know I still battle through depression. I know it's okay to acknowledge, but in another case, it's also you need somebody to always whisper or sometimes scream to you lyrically that it's not. You can get through this. Whatever you're getting through, you can be so much better than where you're at.
yes, definitely. We got some comments in the Facebook side.
Sure.
So said Fire Music had somebody just come in, and he's been playing catch up with all the comments and stuff. So they look forward to another song. So
I've got plenty more for you, y'all. It's a constant work in progress as an indie artist. There's a lot that are rough cuts. There's guitar work. There's a song that is going to be likely on the albums. I can't tell you which one's which, but I can tell you the next one is very much on brand. It's very much something I'm putting on the scope of almost Into the Storm, called Cruise Control. I've had this song written for a little bit, but in terms of it sounding like I had in my head, I wasn't there yet. So I would expect in a couple of months that's going to be the one that's going to be the one that I promote, the one I'm preaching about in the fall, to kind of give out some stuff out there, some fillers until the album is out there, because you can't leave nothing out into the world for 6 months as I continue to write and shape and mold these songs. It's got to be a continuous process and try to promote too. That's the hardest thing for an indie is I'm doing all this work, I'm making this song, I'm touching up on the song Cruise Control and Reboot Me. I'm doing all the guitar work, and then hey,
you gotta
promote this song.
now.
You got to promote this.
Yep.
You got to like today I was promoting Ascend, and I was like, okay, I got to promote these older songs and give it visual flair on Instagram and on YouTube. And I haven't gone into the TikTok world yet. I know, forgive me. I've been wavering back and forth with the security, what have you, with TikTok, but that's also on the precipice, because I know that hits more of a younger demographic. I don't know how much they will attest to it, because it is more, AC/DC, in terms of its sound, not to mention Airborne. The sound is reminiscent of 80s and, early 90s rock. And if that doesn't jive, understandable. There's plenty other music out there. but that's what I'm trying to hone into, and that's more of an older demographic, which is why I started off in Instagram and YouTube, Facebook. Put it out there on Facebook, the Book of Faces. And then, yeah, I know. It was the Facebook, by the way. That's how old we are. We actually knew what it was called back in the day.
MySpace.
Oh, God. Oh, well, I'm not putting it out there, obviously, now. But it's making a comeback. Hey, Tom was always our friend. If you all know, Tom was always our friend. By the way, if you didn't know, MySpace was very much like SoundCloud, where you could premiere a lot of your music. A lot of indie bands went there first. It was amazing. And every time, the whole point was you can upload whatever content you had, and whenever you signed up, you had a friend. I did like that idea. Your friend was always Tom, and that's why we make that comment. So for those who are playing a little bit of like, what is he? This MySpace? Am I gonna have to Google? What do they talk about in MySpace? I've heard it on this podcast before.
Had to bring out the archives.
Oh, I know. You mean I got to open a book?
Rolodeck.
Yeah, that's where I get the rolling of the eyes in my classroom, right? It's the rolling of the eyes, whatever. And if you're wondering, do I promote my music in my classroom? The answer is no. I don't. I don't really am sitting there going, you must listen to my music, because I feel like that's kind of biased. I want my students to go, hey, after class, hey, what is your songs? Because I'm into 80s rock. I'm into hard rock. Like, my parents got me into it. So I've gotten a few on that, but I don't sit there and, like, when you come into my classroom, I play music, but typically it's not my music because right now it's not incredibly popular, and it's a genre that is not exactly one that connects with a lot of the youth. We'll say that. Well, I could be wrong, right? I put this on TikTok and then something blows up and I'm like, all right, now I gotta play this song, and be like, oh my gosh, you're the guy that does this song too? I'm like, yeah. But yeah, I will say, yeah, for the TikTok crowd, whatever, I'm going into there. But in terms of promotion, I want to make sure that people are not feeling like they're being pushed, and I feel like that would be kind of pushing it on that realm.
I'll tell you what, though, you put it out on TikTok, man. You'd be surprised how far it goes. That's like when I promoted the podcast with you, and each person that I go on, I always put the post, like the promo pick, and then I pick your music. So I'll pick one of your songs on TikTok. It's there.
All right.
And,
well, hey,
so
that's a launching point, right? That's you're the one dipping the toe or jumping in before me. Like, hey, the water's just fine. Come on in.
Yeah.
Come on in. Join the crowd. So,
but you'd be surprised, man, how many views you'll get. Yeah.
But again, to be honest, I want my music to be heard by people that may want to actually listen to it. Like, I'm not doing it for an algorithm purposes, right? I want to get there and make sure that it's not for clicks. It's not for. I just want people to resonate with the music. And like I said, I would put it out there for sure now. As I've been wavering back and forth, in fact, July, that's what my intention has been this week, is go before the 4th of July, get a TikTok account up, make sure everything's running. I tried to run one earlier, but it just, I don't know what it was with the algorithm. It wouldn't play for some reason. And it was such an ordeal. Oh, your producer's putting out also AOL Messenger. Let's not go there. Let's not go there. We're gonna lose audience, especially the youth, if we talk about AOL and You've Got Mail. You've got mail. Yeah, no, it's the idea of the reason that the hesitation, by the way, for those wondering about TikTok, because that is obviously the premier site for views and getting clicks, what have you, is if you don't do your research, there's a lot of really, it has to do with security, and I don't want all my information to completely be out there. And TikTok has a notorious, really billing of taking where you are in terms of your IP without letting you know, no matter what device you have, whether even if it's an Apple and they say they're not tracking you, they are. And so I'm wrestling with that, and I'm going to possibly find some ways that I can make sure that I can hide a little bit of that security or hold on to it for my sake. And I figured that out on my end. So obviously now I'm going to start posting videos. But I also know about the algorithms, and you can't go crazy. You have to do like 1 or 2 a day. You can't do anything obscene and throw like all my ones on Instagram, or it's going to blow up and it's going to say, you're a bot. You're just, rehashing stuff, in my library. And I'm like, no, I'm actually posting all this stuff to try to get more people to follow along with the music. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you got to watch out, man.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
well, yeah, it's well, and I think you're saying, I'm not the biggest fan on TikTok. Your producer's like, I'm not the biggest fan. I'm not bashing it. It's just because of that security. If it didn't have that security issue, then that would probably been the first site I would drop all my stuff. That would be where all my teasers go. But also, it was slightly on the fact of demographics too. I knew older crowd, Facebook, Instagram, SoundCloud, of course, for any indie artist, that's a no-brainer. Putting it on Spotify and getting it distributed there, that's a no-brainer. But then after that, then comes the decision, okay, YouTube, if you don't mind the security, if you want to put everything out there as an artist, makes complete sense, go for it. If you're not worried about that, your location, what have you, but I have to think about my family, and I have to be a little bit more, it's not just my idea, right? You have to somehow have a communication of, guys, just want to let you guys all know that this is a communication amongst all of us, that I want to make sure that my family is safe, let alone me, and that's why I had to hesitate a little bit and make sure to do more research on my end and do some methods so that way, not everything is out there, so to speak, just for protecting my family. But if you're just starting as an artist and you're in a single apartment, you're like hearing this, you're like, nope, brother, I'm putting it out there in TikTok. I'll put power to you, my man. Rock on. I want you out there. So, but yeah, no, that's the only hesitation. But it's definitely coming up.
so the Storm Unleashed, that album, that's the single. You put that out June 25th.
Yeah.
I was looking at the date, man.
Yep. And then that many songs that get released, it's not immediately that it comes out. And so that one was a hold on to and think about. That didn't make it in my 2 albums. It was really rough. I didn't really necessarily like the hook with my chorus, and just deep dive into it as you mentioned it. That is the latest one that's on SoundCloud and that's on going up on Spotify. And the reason, again, that you hold back on this as artists is because it didn't quite need the cut. There was other songs that I felt like were more noteworthy. How Far I'll Go was just a banger for me, and it got a lot of views and clicks on SoundCloud, and got a lot of clicks. I think it was also on Instagram with its short reel. I got other responses that were way more positive than I got from Storm Unleashed. Plus, I kind of played it out on a few of my fans, and they were like, yeah, this isn't the best, so to speak. And I listened to them, and I go, okay, I understand. They definitely like the beginning of the song, but toward the chorus and toward the end, they're like, it's a little short. It's not that, it's not as much catchy as the other ones. It's about really a storm itself, or the power of a storm. It doesn't really talk about motivating you. Mm-hmm. So that's where you're like, it just got released. I'm like, well, yeah, but it's been in a hard drive for a while, and I've had to mix it a little bit, try to tune it, and I got to put, like I said, I've got to put something out there because I really didn't have much in June. Probably not going to have that much in August. I'm hoping later in the fall, I've got some other stuff where I'll put out, maybe, like I said, Cruise Control. Maybe I'll pull out Reboot Me, and some other songs that may not necessarily be the one on the precipice to be on the album. And if, like I said, if they do hit, then I'm like, okay, that's just a confirmation. Put those on the album, because there is a story to be told with this one. And it's really just, again, really, it's not so much like Into the Storm where you're like, I'm embracing it. It's more, there's no way you're going to turn back from it. You've made a path now. There's no going back. You've got to really put yourself in there. That's kind of the theme I'm putting myself in for this album. So if it meets it, if it makes a lot of clicks and views, it's all going in, brother. If not, then it will come out at a much later date. As artists know, that will be you're one of my diehard fans, you're my latest follower when the album drops in 2026 or what have you. Let me hear that. Let me get a taste. Let me hear these raw songs that not being released in the public or Spotify, and people love that, and I make sure that I give them that. So for those who do follow, I definitely give you those songs, those rough cuts. So yeah, I gave a rough cut of Storm Unleashed. I want to say the beginning of June. So I gave that to my fans that were just new recently, that were following me or were following me on my website, and they heard it. And like I said, I got that kind of feedback. I'm like, okay, I know what kind of I can be gentle with this. I can try to work with it, and I know that I'll waver on whether or not I put it in 2026 album. But yeah, that's when you said that kind of June 25th. What? Why so? You talked about you made that song last year. I'm like, well, yeah, a lot of artists they have catalogs where they've got songs from last year, but it didn't fit a theme. There's some stuff they don't like about it, and you've got to always have something in your catalog later on that you can remix, right? I think your producer was talking about, hey, you need to remix all these songs. That's brother, I'm doing that a lot, and I'm tweaking them. And if I don't feel like they're not there yet to be public, then I'll hold on to them for future reference. But if they're good enough, I think for a rough cut, and my fans really want to hear that, I'm all for it. I'm gonna release it to you. I'm gonna send it in a special email or a special DM.
For sure. So, well, you wanna play that song?
You can play, sure. I'm kind of curious what the reaction on your part. I don't know if any of you guys have heard it. So, like I said, you'll hear the theme real quickly with the song.
All right, about to share the screen. All right, guys. Storm Unleashed.
Full screen.
Sky turning black now, funnels creep. Winds howl like demons, nothing's asleep. Pressure builds up, ready to combust. Storm's a monster, fueled by dust.
I love the hook though. Here we go.
Calling of the storm, hear it loud for all to hear. Hear the calling of the storm, hear it loud for all to hear. Fear it now, the power unleashed.
Debated on putting storm or power. I just went with power.
Trees bending low, roots rip apart.
Visual.
Rivers overflow, flood from the start. Wrath of the heavens tearing through. Power unmatched, storm's wild debut.
That
Hear
chorus
the calling of the storm, hear it loud for all to hear. Hear the calling of the storm, hear it loud for all
Nice
to
kick,
hear.
there we go.
Fear it now, the power unleashed. The power unleashed.
Gotta have that riff. There we go.
Hear the calling of the storm, hear it loud for all to hear. Hear the calling of the storm, hear it loud for all to hear. Fear it now, the power unleashed. Go about the power unleashed.
Oh yeah. Oh man, flashbacks. Last year, Hurricane Barrel. Kind of give you the visuals of what's going on, what I saw, and then obviously commenting on how powerful storms can be, matching the theme of the band. But what really was interesting there is you heard it was the debate that I had when making the song, because the song's called Storm Unleashed, but I say power because I wanted to more get and resonate with people that were working out, people that were listening to the song, and focus on the fury of it. And they can get the storm imagery obviously from the lyrics itself, and getting it from the chorus saying, hear the calling of the storm. So
They said, comment said, badass, dude.
thank you, man. Rock on. Whatever music gets you going. And yeah, that was definitely your storm, as much storm theme as you're going to get in my music. You will hear that. If you hear more, you will hear that throughout some of the lyrics. You'll hear mentioning of shadows and demons and the inner workings, but also you'll hear a lot of storm references, rain coming down, a lot of times referencing to thunder itself, right? So yeah, it's one of those kind of things where lyrically, that was the one I will tell you. I cannot tell you how many times. It must have been over 100 times. I think, hit and record, getting off of that, going, let me say Storm Unleashed. No, that's not. It doesn't feel right. And then say Power, and that just was more fire for me. That was just, again, eventually it was a toying back and forth, and that one, oh man, I was gonna almost do a coin flip. Being honest, I woke up one day, I'm like, I'm just gonna flip a coin, just make that thing, figure out what I'm gonna do lyrically, and then I was like, you know what, that's it. I'll pray about it. Let higher power, something hit me like a sign, like when you're driving, right? When you're driving around, you're looking for something that kind of tells you, and I don't know what it was. It was me working out, and it wasn't that song, and I was like, you know what, just Power. That's more resonating. That's more, that's what's going to be. That's what you're more in awe of. It's not in the awe so much. Yes, it is of how masterful it looks and how ominous that storm is. It's also the amount of power. That's what brought me in to the meteorology field. That's what brought me in to thinking that I was going to be a TV weather guy and telling you what the weather was going to be. And mostly cloudy skies and thunderstorms late into the day. And then you'll have temperatures fall only into the upper 70s. And then it goes and gets hot again into the 90s. You know this whole deal, right? Being in Louisiana and me being in Texas, the same weather every single time, generally in the summer. And that got me, and that was always the playing in my mind was, okay, we're going to get off the weather thing and more resonate with people. They're more resonating with the power and not just how ominous the storm is. I'll talk about that obviously lyrically. I do in the beginning of how generally the most powerful storms, by the way, if you didn't know this, it's not how much they lift up, it's how much they spin. If they can spin, they can separate the cold and warm air efficiently to the point where it can continue to stay longer and be up for several hours. And this is where we get our supercell thunderstorms. By the way, that was a title I was thinking of the band, Supercell. But that was too much on the nose meteorology, right? That's too, that's like nerdy stuff. Like that, you could tell, like that's a teacher, you know what I mean? Like that just didn't hit like 85. I could see you shaking your head. And so I obviously I got away from that. But yeah, that was the whole spiel on that song. Little pop-up video, right? For that song.
Echoes of Thunder. I think you done good with that.
Oh, thank you. It's definitely something that, again, took a lot of thought through. It wasn't something, and that's what bands do, right? They have that conversation. Luckily for me, right now I'm solo. I'm in the recruitment stage, right? If you're in North Houston and you're like, I really like the vibe of this, I want to play it. Come on, man. I'm all for it. I'm solo right now. I'm doing the best what I have and the tools that I have. Digitally, I'm in a great age because AI can assist me on it. I'm trying to get as much as away as I want to be. And then, again, putting it out there that if people like it, then let's go. But the other side of it is they're also human beings. They also have lives. Do they want to make that investment in that time? And it's completely up to you. But it's full of energy. It's fun stuff to play with. That's what I love with my kind of music is the intensity. We can vary it up. It's very guitar and rhythm driven. It's not something where we're cliched per se. It's got to have great hooks. It's got to have old school guitars in the beginning. I have a song, Hold the Line, that resonates with veterans and understanding of this imagery of soldiers trying to not budge. And that hit me for whatever reason. And I'm not even one in the military. I love the military. My wife's grandfather served and was at many bases. All power to you. And that just, I don't know, just hit me one day. And you don't run away when stuff hits you as an artist, right? You immediately start writing and start thinking of the hooks. And so, yeah, that was definitely a one that stood out. And again, it wasn't necessarily a stormed themed song. So.
Well, speaking of veterans, We got Mike in the house. Uh, he said your music was great.
Thank you.
So-
I appreciate it. All the power to you. And again, I appreciate this platform and you guys giving me the opportunity to tell my story. And for a lot of listeners who are new and hearing these songs for the first time and liking it, you're also, like I said, getting behind the scenes, which is what I loved growing up and listening to these artists. I still love to this day. If anybody reveals the thought process or the toying of the song, and it just gives you more of a connection to that song, which is again what I'm all about.
Yeah.
So yeah, 100%. And I appreciate you serving, by the way, whoever is out there. I commend what you do. I was my first TV gig was out in Abilene, Texas, and there's an Air Force base out there that is famous, an Abilene Air Force Base, and that is where my wife's family had a good connection there, and a lot of good folks out there. And it's also, this music's for you to get through the stuff. This is where we get the idea of, when I was first working out, this is what you did, right? The first thing you did before you worked out was you picked your CD player. I know. You put it on your headphones, and usually the first song was probably Disturbed. Shout out Disturbed. Amazing, amazing band. And taught me so much music, because I learned in watching the behind the scenes footage. I learned a lot about kind of songwriting in the beginning, of how you sometimes, if not now, I use this technique a lot, is a lot of times you make the sound first. You have the idea lyrically what you're going to go to, or what you're going to put down as a chorus, but you listen to the song, and if the song doesn't agree with that, if you're hearing different beats, or hearing a different sort of a rhythm to it, you sometimes have to delete it. The minute I was playing around with the Storm Unleashed, I wanted hard and fast, and the minute I was making that riff and then AI was assisting me on that, is when I went, that's the song. And sometimes it's a marrying of that, but Disturbed showed me it was, okay, feel the song first and just kind of hum it. Don't have any words. It sounds like a lot of mumbo jumbo. So for those artists that are starting out, just obviously humming it, that helped me with the AI portion, but just going in and just going lyrically, okay, this is where a higher note comes in, this is where the lower comes in, okay, this is where I'm thinking more G, this is more C, okay, I'm going to go here, okay. And I was like, that was what I was with Storm Unleashed. It was, okay, I have a storm thing, okay, that is what I'm going to lean into, and then that became, hear the calling of the storm, hear it loud, so everyone can hear, okay, I got it. And so I would keep going from there. So humming and kind of mumbling along, that I learned a lot from Disturbed's videos, and we didn't have podcasts back then to watch. So I had to watch behind the scenes material, and I learned a lot from that idea and Metallica, with these kind of vibes of, you don't have to have any relevance of what a lyric song, what your song typically you hear.
I love some Metallica too.
Everybody, Enter the Sandman, let's go. Let's get the workout going, right? Then we put on a little echoes, but I'm gonna put in the AC/DC Back in Black. I'm gonna
mix it up, man.
Oh yeah, 100%. But but when you learn their techniques, and you go, they're geniuses, and their songs are forever enshrined in our society. There's got to be something to that, and it's always a good person that goes into music. You always want to learn from the best, and I consider them in the rock genre to be the best. As you were nodding here, like, oh, Metallica, oh, AC/DC, like, then what do they do to pull those people in? Thunderstruck, immediately what I thought of with Echoes of Thunder is, you've got to have a guitar riff. You've got to have something where you must be nodding your head to most of my songs. If you're not, then I'm not bringing the intensity. And I got that straight up from Thunderstruck, which, if many people don't know, that was just warming up. That's all they were doing. They were just playing warm-ups. They were just warming up to a show, and they said, you know what? That's actually, you know what? We keep playing. You're warming up over there. There's something to this. Let's keep riding with that. And that's where I go, okay, guitar riffs can have a big influence in your music if you're not bobbing your head, if you're not kind of humming your way through some of this stuff. I know a lot of that. That's what usually gets whaled back into we'll put that in the rough cut. Maybe it will get the light of day for my fans, my dedicated fans. But for those, in terms of public, Yeah, I'm probably not going to promote that song very much.
Yeah. No, man. Uh, it's I like your music. I enjoy it. There's several. We probably won't have time to play all the ones that I
Oh
chose,
no, 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 no!
but
And that gives the viewers, that gives the listeners an opportunity to go look. Like, hey,
oh yeah,
like you said, it's you get a couple feelers of these songs, and you go, I get where he's talking about.
yeah,
Where I'm bobbing my head, and I'm
yeah,
getting you lyrically. Just okay, all right. Here's the calling.
yeah.
Okay, all right.
That's what got me, man. That 30 seconds. I was like,
But that's the science of it, right? You sit there as
mhm,
an artist, and if you're still starting out and you're trying to get your stuff out there, and golly, may I also just put out there, I have gotten slammed on Instagram and TikTok, what have you, of advertisements of trying to promote your music, right? And I believe in not paying for the quick, hey, I
yeah,
guarantee you there will be so many views and so many clicks if you pay for the service. I'm going to
mhm,
be honest with a lot of you out there that are listening or just getting into this realm. If you just please hear me, because again, just a little bit more of experience here than those that are just starting out. Don't listen to that. Don't listen to the noise. Again, I have a song for that. Do not listen to that noise. Okay, it's called Ignore the Noise, by the way. Ignore the noise. It is the idea that you have to go and talk to people. They have to listen to your music and they will spread it. That is or what we call organic. It's not people that you put on YouTube and they manipulate an algorithm. That is not how you want to get there in life. I know some of you are craving the clicks. You're craving, just to be heard. We all want to be that, but I also want to do it in the right way. And you want to have that legacy, right? Going back, I didn't want to cut any corners. I didn't want to do anything shady with individuals because I get that. When you do SoundCloud and you promote music, they'll start sending you messages like, hey, really love your music.
yeah,
By the way, would you like to give me some money? And I'll
yeah.
mess with some algorithms and I'll make you have so many followers. I'm like, I want real followers. The people I have follow me.
I
They
get
are legit.
I get those messages almost every video. And we did. Hey, while we're having this podcast now, we had one pop up in the chat. By the way, off of Twitch. We also stream the Twitch for everyone.
There you
But
go.
yeah, I was sitting there trying to promote in the chat. I was like, eh,
Oh, if there's not advertisements, oh man, here we go. Okay, I'm trying not to age myself. Well, I've done it so many times already. Back in my day, right? We can't say back in my day. But I'm being honest. There was a time. I will always say that's what I say in my class. There was a time where YouTube didn't have advertisements, and you didn't have to plead or pitch out money to people that were scam artists and trying to just get you to get by. If it sounds too good to be true, it likely is.
and it
So
was a
stick.
lot easier
Oh gosh,
for
yeah. Oh
your
my god.
like for a creator. It was a lot easier for a creator back in the
Hmm.
day. Sorry,
Oh no,
when
you're
dinosaurs
good.
romed the earth.
Oh yeah.
No,
Well,
no,
yeah,
no.
no, no, no more references. No more references.
Uh,
Back in my day, the cobwebs and all of that, when the cavemen had their drawings.
That's when we used to take our women. No, I'm just playing.
Yeah. And as Z is putting out, and your producer, shout out to Z over here. Everything is a scam. Yes, it is. A lot of folks out there, I can't tell you enough how much the algorithm picks up on, the scamming, the flooding of advertisements that they're just trying to get you to go. If you do this one thing, your life will be so much better. And I get that idea because again, one of our main goals as artists is to be heard. But the problem with that desire and just going for those clicks is you're gonna get caught up and a lot of stuff that you're not gonna realize what has been tarnished, and your followers can finally go up and then they can really dip down low, and there's not really much going on in terms of chatting with you and being real with you, and you're wondering what's going on. But was it worth it? That's all. Was it worth it to put that money out and to put your music out there? And you're like, well, some people will say yes, but I would say for most true artists, the answer is no. It's not worth it. I'm tarnishing my brand by doing that. I don't mind if I'm at a 50 follower, 100 followers. I know it's tough. I get it. 200. I get enough out of people interact with me saying, my life is changing because of your music. I had a person DM me not too long ago saying, I am now a Thunderhead for life. We call our fans, by the way, Thunderheads. and we go, I'm Thunderhead for life. I adore your music, and they could not be as more real as possible. And it's not a bot. You can obviously tell when they are and when they're not. And it's funny, the icon with no picture, or there's like a fake, smile, and it looks like, oh, I don't know. So yes, do not give in, folks. And just know Echoes of Heart will never give in to those kind of scams, nor should you, for that matter. There's never been, I think, one time. I'm trying to think if there's ever been an ad. You correct me if I'm wrong. Anybody who'll go, oh man, I really need that advertisement. I really needed that car. I really needed. Like, I've never looked back and seen this, and that's because I also know how ads are run. I also know a little bit about ads coming in from the media because I worked in television, and a lot of it is scams, and they're trying to play with you, and I don't like to do that to people. I always hated commercial breaks. I could do television and interviews for hours because I wanted to prolong it and not be interrupted. That was one of my big things. My background was severe weather, and that was my biggest moment. I craved those, but I was also scared for them because that was when there was the most threat to the public, right? When there were severe storms and you have that TV meteorologist, hey, I get it, this day and age, people are annoyed, they're watching their show, whatever, and here's this, rambling TV guy telling you there's a warning, and you don't know the difference between a warning and a watch and what have you. But I get, by the way, I share that because I'm on the other side of the spectrum now as a viewer, and I'm trying to watch my football or my team on Sports-Wise or whatever, and here's this guy coming on the screen. I'm like, I can do your job. I know what's coming on. Please just put this to the side. I know you have the technology to do so. But yeah, it was, when it came to the weather stuff, I get that. And it was the same kind of notion of me going on and going, I just don't want people to see advertisements. I don't want to annoy them. I want to help them through in the severe storms, and I did some coverage myself, and it's so strange because it's kind of like performing as an artist. You don't think about going to the restroom. You don't think about drinking a swig of water. Notice throughout this whole interview, where we're pushing to an hour 15, and not one swig. I'm totally, entrenched, enthralled by it. I want more and more of it. I just want to supply whatever I can to the people, help them where they're at. I don't want to fill them with ads. I don't want to fill them with stuff that they really don't need. So,
Yeah.
a little spouting off. Sorry, I had to get that out there with the advertisements. Z comments really put me over the edge. He goes, everything is scam. Like, amen, brother. Amen.
Yeah, man.
Oh, God.
They're everywhere. Scams.
Well,
Constant scams.
Well, and now I'm thinking about going to the movies to go see the latest Superman, and I'm like, I don't. So I try to time it out, y'all. I don't know. Side note here, as a front man and music and stuff. Yes, we do have lives and stuff. Obviously, I try to plan out my life beforehand to I feel like set that up so that way I didn't have to have everything in my music in terms of it making or breaking me. But as I go to the movies and stuff, like, I try to time it out. I don't know about y'all. You could correct me if I'm wrong. 15, 20 minutes after the initial showing time. Is anybody else with me on that one? Or, what I mean? Because you know, there's going to be, 5 trailers that you've already seen. By the way, thanks to YouTube, and they're advertising it because they're putting some of those trailers on there. But then there's the food, the trivia stuff, which I did kind of love. Back in the day, they used to have trivias with a lot of the times you walk in the theater before the trailers. But nowadays, you walk in and there's just blitz of advertisement. And I'm like, oh, I get it on my phone. I get it on the screen. I'm like, can I just have a moment where it's just straight up stuff? And I'm waiting for that day. I hope it never comes because I'm getting it, on the Amazon stuff, whatever. They'll play it right in the middle of your show. Like, you're in the middle of a show and then here comes an advertisement. I'm like, come on, man. I'm not paying this extra whatever money to just get rid of some of these more advertisements. Ugh. But yeah, so little diversion though. Hey, we're here about the real talk, but yes, I think we can all agree that it's flooding the market. Even for artists, we are getting flooded with material, and it's not right. And obviously, don't cave into them.
So, for those of y'all that are just coming in, Chad was a meteorologist, and he's also a school teacher now.
Gotta
on
pay the
top of
bills.
making music.
Yeah, I feel like I'm living a double life, right? Like Clark Kent is
Like-
saying. I used to wear the suits and all that, and and have to now come back here late at night to work on songs and promotion and think about it, because every single day it's okay, I'm going to promote this song, I'm going to work on this material. I always have a kind of a set schedule in my head. But yes, I did work in television for 7.5 years. I was in Abilene, Texas, and then I was in Little Rock, Arkansas, for a Fox affiliate and then an ABC affiliate. The affiliates, by the way, have no influence whatsoever. I know people always want to say, like, do they tell you what to say on the air? No. What we did is we met up and I told them what was going on in the weather, and more than half the time is, it's going to be sunny with a slight chance of storms, and here's the temperature. That's it. And of course, being around this area in Southeast Texas, we now, of course, the only time you should really be turning on any kind of television to watch the news for weather purposes is if a hurricane's coming. That's true for Louisiana, right?
It can change any moment.
Well, there's a lot of stuff. I don't want to go off on a diversion of weather stuff and meteorology, but there's a reason.
It did get me though when you can do this on a green screen.
Oh yeah,
and point to exactly where you're talking about. I'm like, how are they doing
it? And it's funny because it's a skill you learn on the job in college. And like I was petrified because I barely had. Okay. Also, fun fact: we had no green screens that much. Over 10, 15 years ago, there was not everybody had green screens like they do in this day and age, and they didn't know how to coordinate. It was very awkward. I had to learn how to. By the way, I just want to let you also know. You never want to turn your back to an audience. This is why streaming services and podcasts are so successful, is because usually you're looking toward the viewer. So when we were on television, one of the tricks of the trade is you had to look and pretend that you were looking and pointing what you were obviously looking at, but we had no clue. And it's one of the tricks of the trades that you learn down the road. And we don't rehearse. Good meteorologists are all impromptu. There's no teleprompter that I follow. And we went right through that, and we would tell the stories on each sort of PowerPoint slides, because that's what they were. They were glorified PowerPoint slides, basically the program that we had, and we'd show them to the public. And we would continue to turn our heads and look at a television to the side and kind of make out what we're pointing to, but we were faking it the whole time. You just got really good at it to the point where we're like, I know where this city is. I know where this storm is. I can kind of already make that kind of the decipher of all of that just by the angle of the screen and me looking back and forth. This is, again, also why we don't use teleprompters, is because we have to constantly look back and forth, and if we're trying to look for words and come back, we're going to lose our place. So many of them are impromptu, which has definitely helped me in the teaching field, and also has helped me as a musician to be on the fly and be willing to change and not be so steadfast in what you're going through. And it helps me with interviews. It helps me so much. I take a lot of my expertise in public relations and putting my music out there to a lot of my media background, and trying to customize myself to some of the newer formats, like I said, TikTok. But the idea of how to put stuff out there, when to put stuff out there, how to say it, how to present yourself out there, that takes sometimes years of training for artists, and trying to prevent saying trying to do run-on sentences where you're like, buddy, I hate to say it to you, not good storytelling. You need to work on it a little bit, and that's okay. You need to add emotion to it. You need to be okay with that, and like I said, revealing yourself out there and not be, I don't know, so rehearsed, right? And you've had a lot of good artists on the show where they're being completely honest, and you can tell there's no talking points. There's no, stuff, side on their screens. If you had my screen open, I'd have like 2 or 3 tabs. I know, taboo on the young side, where they have 20. So it's one of those. It's really helped me out in this format to do interviews, to help stress where you sound sort of scripted, but you have certain talking points, but you don't reiterate it. You don't sit there and go, oh, he's clearly reading from a script. He's clearly looking at the lower left-hand side to read off something. Like, I'm not. That's just my natural tendency. So, and I know you're looking at several screens yourself. And looking at several tabs in the chats. Commend you, by the way. It's never easy, because they had that when I was in media. They would always put that, what do they call it, IFB, an earpiece, and they would talk the whole time. So I've also had to learn how to talk while somebody else is talking in your ear. That's a whole new level of skill.
Yeah,
So
like my peripheral goes off. I can see something, and
flashing.
yeah.
I can see it in your eyes. I'm like, you're trained. You know what you're doing. This is not your first rodeo. That's awesome, and I can see it. And I'm commending you, brother, because you're doing a fantastic job, and you're paying attention. You're nodding. You're with me on it. You're not just going, and there's this one shot. Okay, yeah, keep talking.
Dude, I've practiced. I've practiced because watching multiple screens. Also, I've, especially with my kids and stuff like that, I've learned to be able to listen to multiple conversations. You know, it's weird. It's weird,
It is.
but I can, multitask is something I've been able to do. You know, is I can sit here and I can type while I'm sitting here and having a conversation to you, and it takes time to do this, and maybe later down the road, I'll have it set up to where my full focus is on the individual, on the podcast, and I'll have someone, responding to all the comments and, popping them up as you can see, so, uh, yeah,
Yeah.
improvement. There's rooms
Oh
for
yeah.
improvement.
There's the glory days ahead of us, right? Both of
Oh,
us
yeah.
as we're going through, and the life experiences have gotten us ready for these kind of moments. And yeah, I just want to commend you. You're doing a fantastic job, and it's not a skill I thought I was going to ever be known to do because right, we men have the trope of we can't multitask, right? We can only focus on one task. And I'm not gonna lie, I am still one of those people, that when I do something, I go
Tunnel
all
vision.
in. Oh yeah. Oh, I mean, you have to as an artist, right? You have to when you have that viewpoint of a song. You're like, yeah. If my wife comes and sees me right now, I don't know if I'll acknowledge it. I feel so bad, but she knows. She knows. It's like seeing a,
Am I gonna look?
yeah.
Don't hit me. Don't hit me. No.
It's not a hit. It's the look of everyone knows this. If you've ever been married or have had a significant other, it's the evil stare that you
Dude,
know
was
is
that a
burning.
flip flop that flew by your head? No. No.
You're getting too real on me right now. But I mean, that the only time I can ever imagine that happening is if I'm in the middle of a song and she'd have to wake up in the middle of the night, and the only reason it's the middle of the night, it's not me, it's not my music because I got my headphones, I'm doing my thing. In the dark, of course, got to do it in the dark. It's always just more meaningful. It's the fact that the kids have probably done it, and I know she's tired or whatever. So if she does come on in, I try. But if I'm locked in, like you said, you're locked in. And she knows this now. She's more accepting of it because at first, she's like, oh, this music thing, okay, this is kind of nice. And now she's a follower, and now she's a fan, and she gets it. She goes, when you're in your zone in the middle of the night, oh, cool. I'm just not going to interrupt, even if the kids get me up. She's a very solid sleeper, but if she does, yeah, she's probably gonna stay away because she knows I'm into it. I'm in the zone, and I don't want to deter it. And much like when anybody else is in the zone, you don't want to interrupt what they're going through, and especially as a musician when you're just getting that last kind of hook, and you're trying to waver on a certain way. You're kind of emphasizing it on a higher note, or maybe it's a different word, and then comes second guessing. All of that needs to be in the moment, and you need to find those places, and wherever it is. This is obviously my makeshift studio with, of course, the other second chair has to be because my wife also works. But yeah, it's one of those deals when you're in there in the zone, you can't step out. And yeah, sometimes that does offend people, but as an artist, sorry, that's all we can say, right? We can just say we're in it right now.
Yeah, you might be on to something, and you're about to close that song, and so you got to stick with it. So I understand.
Oh, it's like no other feeling, and you don't feel satisfied until it's done. And sometimes, man, I've been close to seeing that sunrise, and that's the scariest things to sit there and realize. I mean, it shows the amount of work, yes, but a lot of people don't know how much goes into the song. How Far I'll Go must have had over 300 iterations of that song. That one took the most work, and that was the one that got me almost to that sunrise. I'll remember that. And that was a one that it was such a good payoff when it came down. I remember I was so proud of it, and I must have been 4 or 5 a.m. and I was just, I got maybe 1 hour sleep before I had to get ready for school the next day. And shout out to coffee and energy drinks because I lived off that for a couple days once that song was done. But I was so darn proud of what I had made, and that is my kid's number one song. And that's the kind of moments I'm talking about where you get completely locked in, and I'm not gonna leave until it's done. And when you are, most of the time, if you know it's right, there's nothing a better feeling. I wish I could have slept 13 hours because I certainly wanted to. I don't know how much work I got done songwriting wise the following day. I think that day was more of a, I might plan something for Instagram later on to post.
Yeah, as I get older, I find it a little harder for me, especially with a day job too, is staying up all night. Now, if I can get one good night and then like I'm working on like videos and
Oh yeah.
like I try not to edit anything. Okay, it goes out live and I put it out the same way.
Hmm.
You know, so about the most I do is make clips, short clips, and they put them on YouTube. So you can't imagine how many views you get off of
The
a
shorts.
minute and 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's insane. Like,
I find those clips though, right? I can't. I commend you because I have to do the same thing. I'm like, what song am I pick? What part of the song? I know the typical is the chorus, but sometimes you're not. You're going, I like the guitar riff on this one more. I like more. Should I put more, human beings in some of my reels now? I've been starting to play around with that. It's, more of me out there. Also, I'm going to try to put that in the process in these shorts. But it's one of those like, that's another gnawing thing in the middle of the night, right? You're shifting through all this thought process, and the worst part, scatterbrain, ADHD, will. This is why we don't have a lot of tabs because I will not go to bed, and you trying to shuffle through all of that. So it's amazing what you can pull off and do through that, and you have to shift through so much material. Yeah, amen. I know it's a lot. And yours is an hour and 30, and you're looking for those good, awesome clips, right? And I'm with you 100%. It's not easy, but that's what's going to get the views. That's what's going to get people pulling, and it got some of you guys, and it will get some people too. When you get to hear some of my songs, you hear snippets, and you go, yes, that's what I want to hear more of that. It makes the payoff even more worth it, and that's why we spend those countless nights either finishing songs or tidying up how to promote it, how to get it out there, and not just, wing it and say, okay, AI, edit it for me. There's now AI editors, which is just a joke. Speaking of AI, how lack of, confidence I have in them, but, they're helping me out through some of the music right now. But the idea of just going in and saying, okay, I have to show through this because it's going to be worth it. I will get more clicks. I will get more viewership. And like I said, we're not, and you can tell the passion has to be because we're not getting paid. This isn't like we're all sitting there, making, oodles of money. This is stuff that we do I'm having to still do on the side.
yeah.
Because of it doesn't pay the bills. I'm not getting as much of streams. You have to have millions of views on TikTok or SoundCloud to get any kind of
YouTube.
revenue. Yeah, YouTube's the same way, and I'm like, bless y'all, you guys make great content. I see it when I'm flipping through my stuff. But the one negative side effect is I can't rely that as my income. It'd be great if I ever could, but it's going to be I don't know. That's where I feel like I more have that passion, right? For anybody out there who's listening and have been with us, is knowing that you know how much of a drive you have when you're not doing it for the money. You're not doing it for the clicks. You're doing it for the music. You're doing it so you can get it out there. And it's for the betterment of humans. It's for us, right? We want to make your life easier, and having a nice song hit your head and going, I just got you through your day because you found a new artist, right? And nothing thrills me more is hearing a brand new artist that really connects with you and you can't get enough of them. And I'm hoping I'm one of those bands. If not, find somebody else that can, because there's so much out there. But that's what drives those indie artists, and that's why I give even more respect to them, because they have to put that much effort into their music. They can't just rely on promoter. You can't just rely on, somebody come in and do all the editing, because you want to have your own personal touch to it. And we don't have those resources. We don't have the income to support that. So we have to do with what we have in the tools, which is amazing, by the way. We can do a lot. But the one thing we have to sacrifice, unfortunately, it's time. Time is the number one factor, right? And that's where you're right. If I can get a good night's sleep, I know for the next 2 nights I can power through. I don't have to go to bed as early, and the missus knows, okay, fine, you, after we've watched our show, whatever, okay, you can go do your thing, and I can rest, and I know that I don't know how long I'm going to be up, but it's going to be one of those fun adventures that I know that eventually somebody might connect with, and that keeps us all motivated.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna bring up Spotify again, and I'm gonna let you pick out the next song, because so far I've kind of like, let's play this one.
Well, to be fair, you're giving me the opportunity to put my story out there, so I'm more at your leisure and what songs captivate you, because that's more of the audience. I feel like this is like picking your favorite child or your favorite ice cream flavor, which, shout out, I'm very bland right now in vanilla, but I'm chocolate mint sometimes, then I'm, sherbet. I don't know. Like I said, it's very difficult. I'll go with one that tends to get also a lot of clicks or a lot of positive reviews, and the one that was kind of out there for press release and was getting a lot of views, and that's Resurgence. Resurgence, I don't know if that was up in the top 10. I'm shocked it's not up there. That's one of the, so if you hit the single and EPs tab, right there, you go right there to Resurgence to the right.
To the right. Oh, there it is.
Right there. So that one to me is the catchiest tunes I think I've ever written when it came to me, and I think a lot of fans who've never heard of me, they might be interested. So if you want me to pick one, I'm going to go with the one I think that's fairly popular on many platforms, besides Into the Storm. Of course, we already played that.
All right, let's do it.
All right, let's do it. A lot of shine down right here.
Dusty ground swallowing regret. Blood and sweat fighting over yet. Through the pain crawling on all fours. Scream of the soul heard through closed doors.
Oh, that kind of curling pain, man.
Shadow deep, darkness closing in. Broken nails, but we're gonna win. Bruised heartbeat, stronger by the day. Gritted teeth pushing doubt away.
Build up. Here we go.
Get up and rise again. It's not over yet. Resurgence coming, so don't regret it. Get up and rise again. It's not over yet. Resurgence coming, so don't regret.
Thunderous drums. I love that. That took forever to get in there.
Pushing harder cause we wanted more. Battling demons to end our wars. Thoughts kicking loud and wide. Not gonna make it cause the wave's too high.
Oh yeah, self-doubt.
Get up and rise again. It's not over yet. Resurgence coming, so don't regret. Get up and rise again. It's not over yet. Resurgence coming, so don't regret.
Oh yeah.
Get up and rise again. Get up and rise again. The war ain't over, it just begun.
Oh, hit it now. Gotta have those riffs, baby. Ooh.
Get up and rise again. It's not over yet. Resurgence coming, so don't regress. Get up and rise again. It's not over yet. Resurgence coming, so don't regress. Yeah, don't regress. Get up and rise again. Get up and rise again. The war ain't over, it just begun.
Heck yeah, man. I see that. Is that a phoenix in the background on that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Ultimate symbol of resurgence, in my opinion. I'm sure a lot on the internet, as I was crafting the image for the album cover. That one was, man, the imagery on that song, I can't tell you, was the most, let's make a song, the most get back up song you can ever imagine when you get kicked down. And try to make it, of course, your own. It's really hard because many songs are the same way. But that one I try to make unique, with knowing that you've got backup coming, so don't give up yet.
I love the album, though, the cover too, because of the
yeah.
phoenix. Rise from ashes.
Oh yeah, very. By the way, that lyric's hard to get off of me. I've put that in a couple of my songs, touching on. I know you've definitely listened to that. I've tried to vary on that, saying "rising from the embers," but yeah, no. Resurgence was one of those that I wanted so badly to remind folks to, like, okay, not only get yourself back up, but know that help is on the way. That resurgence is coming, and that you don't need to sit there and give an inch, because that there's going to be help along the way. And that was sort of the subtle message of me, trying to sit there, like, don't give up, and this is just the beginning. The war has just begun. You got this. And that's probably going to be, because of the number of positive feedback I've gotten from actual reviewers such as yourself and others, that it's probably going to be on next year's album, due to the high praise on that song. Very catchy guitar riffs on it. So yeah, definitely. I don't know if I'm going to do much else with that song, but that's probably going to be a keeper on that one. And I can see you bobbing your head. Probably is a good reason why that is. So yeah, that was as much as I can tell you about remembering going through that thought process. Definitely was an all-nighter kind of song, but I'll be honest. The reason it was all night was mainly the mixing and getting the thunderous kicks that I wanted to get from the drums. The song came to me within an hour, and those are rare, as you know, as an artist. When you get those, you don't back down. I was locked in. I think it was right around early evening and dinner time, and I think I kind of was very quick with dinner and my family, because when it hit you, I was like, all right, you're gonna have to put the kids down, because the riff started coming to me, and then the lyrics immediately. Once I heard it, and putting it together, it was within an instant. Well, resurgence. You're gonna have someone always there. Whatever's thrown your way, you're gonna get through this, and I'm gonna build for the beginning of so much pain that you're screaming through the door that you think you're not going to get through it, and then resurgence is coming. And so that was it's very rare, but I also know good songs usually come from that, from the Lord above, what have you. It just, inspiration, when it hits. Yeah. And that one definitely hit for me, and it was just the mixing, once I knew that song and what the potential was, and getting the right guitar riffs for the solo, and then it was mixing. It was just mixing. I'm like, I'm getting this song done today. That was
tunnel vision moment.
Mm-hmm. Oh, 100%. But this was very abnormal. You don't get this very often. When you write songs, it's constant scratching out. It's constant manipulation, deleting, backspace. Start from the beginning. Let's go back from the riff. Let's hum it again. Like I said, like I learned from Disturbed, and knowing that idea that, okay, maybe let's go a different direction, because I've done that on a few songs. This one was you knew it from the get-go, just from the opening riff to, get up, get up. Something, I know it's simple, but sometimes the simplicity in these songs is what you can resonate to the most with. And so that's where these constant lines come from, and it just came out. It's like, this is the song, this is Resurgence, this is going to be definitely one of the ones I'm proud of, ones I'll promote, and one that will likely come out in 2026 on an album. It's already out, obviously, for Spotify. You can find it anywhere you need to for distribution purposes, except YouTube, or TikTok, the TikTokers. I'm getting to you guys. I promise. I'm coming. I promise. I promise. That is my priority one this week, besides the small promotional stuff that I'm doing on Instagram and YouTube. So, but yeah, that was definitely, I remember, a banger when I walked away. And my wife, that's my wife's personal favorite. That's my kids. They hum that song all the time. So, yep.
Now, have you created any music videos yet?
I have not. We're still at a very, like I said, very much in the infancy stage. I want to. I can tell you with my media background, the visions I have for these songs, what I'd love to. Into the Storm, Resurgence. We would probably be, I can tell you imagery where I would go with them. Into the Storm was a very easy one for me in terms of music video. Was actually, I know it sounds kind of cliche, but I would have me singing as somebody was driving, probably other bandmates, if I do have them down the road, driving me, kind of second guessing whether or not to go into it. And I'm telling them go, and I'm singing as they go into a storm that's off in the distance, and they might swerve, they're missing debris, what have you. But that's the kind of imagery. I already have these, locked away in here. But they're lock and key. You just got a little bit of a taste, a little preview, right? But I would love to shoot, yeah. But the problem is, again,
I look forward to seeing it in the future.
Oh yeah, I would, and of course, right? There's AI. There's a lot of advancement coming quickly where that could possibly be in the realm house. Within maybe a year or so. I would love to do it in person. You'd obviously have to do a little bit of computer graphics out from the distance. Nothing crazy, right? It would be nice to be like a tornado and all this debris and stuff. But that's high grandeur stuff, right? That's stuff for when you're with a high end label and they can afford all this stuff. A lot of times it's just green screen, right? You just put me on top of a station wagon or something, and I imagine they'll do like the wind fan, and that's the best we can do in terms of getting a music video. But yes, I would love to actually do a legit one where it's not just music visuals, or one that's like a small clip. I would love to do a full one for sure, but these are baby steps, right? I'm still fishing out if we can get band members. I'm still fishing out if people want to hear me in gigs. I'm fishing out because, to be fair, I'm trying to think here. I've had my music out for 3 months, and so that's a lot of progress in 3 months. But there's a lot of vision still to come. There's still a lot to come in the future, but this is only 3 months of what I've been putting myself out here for. It's not to say that I'm not ready. I totally am. It's just a matter of the resources. It's planning things out for the album. It's whether or not there are record labels that want to go into investing and doing this kind of business. So there's a lot of stuff at play. But yes, absolutely. If that does even come into fruition, if I ever get into a label, that will be one of the first things I go, hey, you can promote me, we can talk about that, and maybe a future album or so. But really, I imagine the best way to get yourself out there visually, you're 100% right. The first thing I'll say, like day one, what's your vision? I'm like, music videos. We've got to put more visualization to this and take clips from there, and that will get you more notice, more clicks, more of a way to people to notice your music. So I would love to, and I've got so many ideas out there, but I just gotta take it one step at a time, right? One song, one break, one record label, bandmates, and then we're hitting the ground running. If that does not occur, not the end of the world. I can probably work with what I've got and do the best I can down the road in a couple of years. But without a doubt, there's gonna be something coming when it comes to music videos.
Like I said, I look forward to seeing it. But You said band members. So, how do you? What is your intention to maybe get you a couple band members? Or is there a local spot that they play, or do you have some buddies that play, or
I
um,
I'm trying to, so that's it's doing podcasts like here. It's subtle messages and feelers out there, in terms of labels if they know anybody, and really it's all about who you know, right? And right now I don't have anybody in that wheelhouse. This doesn't mean that I don't want it. I encourage it. But again, think of the sacrifice they have to go with. Like, I'm on the older crowd, no label yet. There's a lot of hesitation, and rightfully so. But if you believe in the music and you like the direction I'm going, then what's the hesitation? There's going to be give or take, what have you, and that's where right now it's all about who you know, and I just don't have the right people to know. Doesn't mean I won't know in the future though.
fair?
So it's because of the infancy. Like I said, despite
Oh,
my
yeah.
my experience, it's because despite me having 2 albums, that was over 2 years work that was just polished. That was just with a coat of paint and was putting it out there. And really, it was a feeler, right? To me, it was, let's see what this will hit. Will this get a couple hundred views? Will this get 50 views? Will this get thousands? I'm now in the thousands category. Didn't really expect it to happen this quickly, to be fair. I was trying to be humble. I was like, all right, maybe it'll be maybe a couple thousand down the road in 6 months or so. It's much sooner than that. And I've gotten some attraction from some labels that are on the indie side. But yeah, I'm just excited for the future and wherever that takes me. If there's band members, great. If there's not, I'll try to do the best I can with the DAWs I got and basic instrumentation that's supplemented with AI and pulling the MIDIs and all of this material that goes into making these songs. I can continue to do that. Do I want to? Yeah, but I want to have instruments. I want to be able to go out there and put that music out there because that means more listeners, right? The people that do listen tend to like the direction and the intensity, and they like the uplifting sound. So that gives you more of a possibility. So
Then they tell their friends.
that's all I want. That's organic, right? That's what you strive for. You don't strive for the clicks. I'm not there. I would be great, 100%. I'm not going to ever deny it. I'm never shutting that door. But I'm also being real, and that many artists don't make it into this field because of their pining on that one hope or that one click of going viral. It's more about the connections and the people, like I said, when I know I've kind of made it in this industry, is the humming in the front row, the understanding that I'm actually connecting with people and changing their lives for the better, and they want to constantly put me on their playlist to work out or to have me in the car as they're getting through the tough times in life. That's the real goal in this. It's not oh, I want to go on stage and tour with the bands that I idolize. Of course, every artist does. No, anybody that gets in this industry doesn't go, I don't want that. I know there are some indie people that will be like, I'm just never going to sign. I just want to continue to control. That's fine. Understandable. I get the control. But I'm not going to deny that future, but that's not my goal. My goal is, like I said, if it gets there, wonderful. That's even more icing on the cake. It's more along the lines of, can you be real, bring this music to more ears, and help people, no matter what it is. If it's one song, 5 songs, an album, that's the difference, man. That's why we're doing this whole show, right? That's why we're doing it. This is artists. That's why indie people want to put themselves out there, right? They want to have their story heard. They want to have their music that gets people going, and hopefully for the right reasons. And I'm trying to do the best I can with what I got.
So far, seems like you're doing pretty good for starting out.
Thank you. Like I said, kind of an old man to the system, but again, I bring that experience, and that's the sound that's missing. I think you bring something that's old but familiar. As I know people, and I know your producers, kind of nod and say, like, all right, I can kind of recognize the sound that he's going for. I'm like, yeah. There's also 80s inspired songs and songs that sound very 80ish because they're such an influential part of our daily lives, and if you can't deny it, it's in all the movies that these children have, and they throw in these songs, and you're just like, what's the song doing in here? Like, I have Thunderstruck in Megamind, and I'm like looking at here, I'm like, you guys don't even know when it comes to these songs and what they're really about. Do you want me to tell you more about the lyrics? We'll have to tell you another time for a bad story. So yeah, it's transcendent. And that's again what we've talked about well at the beginning of the show is understanding there are two ways to influence people, and one is teaching. It's what I'm trying to do and help people navigate through this world, and secondly, it's music that will pass on from generations to generations. Considering if it stays within family or a few fans or worldwide, it's gonna connect with people, and I'm just trying to do it for those right reasons. And those, if I leave this earth, those are the two things. I'm just hoping to leave an impact, and I'm trying to do the best I can as a good, well-rounded teacher, and trying to do it as a musician on the side as well.
That's good. Good positive attitude to have, man.
It's hard, man. There's so much negative stuff out there.
Yes.
We talked about the ads. We talked about it. I mean, well, that and just
People,
yeah.
trolls.
Well, yeah. I mean, you coming from your job. I come from my job. My job's never easy. Working. Which tends to get negative connotation, right? Teachers are all. They don't teach like they used to, or all teachers are bad.
You are underpaid, for one.
Yeah, but
So.
but to be good teachers, I didn't get in this for the money. Unfortunately, I'm doing it. I'm living with what I can within our means. The Lord has blessed me with a lot of stuff, but this is what I think I was put on to do with the mentorship and the musician stuff. And I can easily, the negative stuff is always prominent. I always tell my students, like, you can find negative within a second. And men tend to permeate that in their culture. If you don't believe me, go to any chat room in any video game, right? And I get it, you have your time and place to rag on people, but that seems to be the culture, right? If you're not ripping on somebody, you're not somebody. You're not worth being heard in the male community. To me, I'm like, when can we have just some nice, hey, lift each other up, brother, wherever you're at, wherever you're out. For even the women out there, we're trying to lift you up. We've got so much that's thrown in us in screens, so much the noise that's out there, whether it's at your job, whether it's you coming home and you're having even, if you have a rough lifestyle in your family, there's nothing more that can bring you out of that sometimes than the music. Than, people giving you that positive, like getting a positive text from somebody, besides music sometimes, I could be on cloud nine. That's all I need, right? My depression is gone for the day. Because of that idea that there's someone that cares out there and that they've gone through the same kind of struggles.
You've given me a good idea for the future, and I'm not going to spoil it on the show. But when we get off of here,
look at that.
When we get off of here, I'm gonna run something past you.
Okay.
And which is, I think it's a good idea, and also help you to get out there. So
I'm all for it. If it's empowerment rock and it's getting people going and motivating, I'm all for it. That's what I got into this whole genre for, is to create this whole vibe of making music so people can get through whatever it is in life. And of course, my metaphor, of course, is storms with my meteorology background.
Well, we're coming to our 2-hour mark.
Ooh, I'm so sorry, y'all. Oh man, I pushed it to the brink. So.
And I'm sure we could keep going
Oh
on
my
this.
gosh, brother, I got so many other ones, but again, we will definitely outdate ourselves at that point, and we'll lose probably more listeners and viewers if we keep on spouting on stuff in our younger years,
Yeah.
our younger days.
Maybe the next show we'll put towards the weekend.
Oh yeah.
That way everybody's going to be up late.
Oh,
There
you go.
But man, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed you accepting the invite, coming to the podcast, and like I said, my thing is I'm all about sharing new up and coming artists to people that some people never hear of people that are on the West Coast or the East Coast or Central United States. They say their genre or maybe even their area, their local radio station may not cover you know, the demographic of, you know, certain, I wouldn't say demographic, let's say genres. So say, um, for example, I had a guy on the show from Pennsylvania. Nobody ever heard of his music. But I tell you, after that night, you know, several people started picking it up around here and
Mhm.
they've heard of it now.
Yeah.
So that's my goal, you know, is to help. And we're helping one another anyway, you know, so
Oh yeah, you're
yeah,
doing a wonderful job, and I can't thank you enough for giving me the platform, giving me the opportunity to explain where I'm coming from on my songs and where my upbringing was, and being in the South, what have you. So it's one of those things where I just am forever grateful for you, and again, I don't forget about you guys. Everybody that I go on and interview, and I if I ever do, make it a little bigger, a little bit higher up, I never forget you guys. You guys were the first platforms, and really, I'm going to try to journalize everyone that I meet into at this stage, because I feel like there needs to be a tribute. I need to bring you along for the ride as well. So I'm forever grateful. You guys are amazing, and giving me the opportunity to say all of this is a blessing. So thank you, and you guys keep on doing what you can to support indie artists that are not getting heard. It's very hard, especially this day and age, because there's so much out there. It's really, we've gone from, there was very, I wouldn't say slim pickings, but you had to really look hard at your local record store to find these artists. To it's all out there, but it's hard to find, and I'm hoping that I can resonate with enough individuals from this show and others that it can start to build up more of a following, and we can continue to ride the storm and make sure that we can get more of this motivational music out there so we can help others along the way. So yeah, I'm forever grateful. Thank you guys so much, and I will not forget as I move on. Many artists will, but I imagine I'm not the exactly typical artist slash high school slash TV weather guy.
well, we do appreciate you, man. And we want to thank our viewers and stay tuned till next time, man.
Mhm.
Uh, keep on watching BSing with Y Eagle Y, and I'll see y'all on the next podcast.